Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Missing Frames. This is the podcast where we watch all the movies we should have seen by this point in our lives. I'm your host, Shawn Eastridge. We're hanging out on the Nerd Party Network, a collection of podcasts dedicated to all things entertainment. We've got movie news, we've got TV news, we've got book news, and then we've got reviews too, because reviews rhymes with news. So you get all of it. Check it out at thenerdparty.com, and you can follow us on Twitter at Join Nerd Party, and like the Facebook page, follow the Instagram. It's all good. And I'm delighted to welcome back to the show my good dear friend, John Mills. John, welcome back.
I'm very much looking forward to a very special episode wherein I take both you and Richie Pepio to task and prove that Star Trek V is in fact a better movie than Mulholland Drive in every measurable respect.
Oh, that's good. We can tease our audience, give them something to look forward to. But for now, before I get too worked up, and already I can feel my blood churning. And
rage.
We might need to take a little intermission here. But we are 1 year after the official 10-year anniversary of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And I know that last year this was going to be celebrated in grand fashion with a big theatrical release, but COVID kind of screwed all that up. So they're doing that this year. And I think that's coming up pretty soon. Edgar Wright has remastered the film and Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos, all that fancy stuff. And you mentioned to me you have not seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
I have not, which apparently takes a lot of people by surprise, because I know that it is required viewing, especially for people who consider themselves nerds or Edgar Wright fans or both. And there appears to be an incredible cross-section of that.
There are many. This movie is kind of like a hodgepodge of, are you a fan of comic books? Are you a fan of anime? Are you a fan of video games? Are you a fan of Edgar Wright? Are you it crosses so many different genres and fan bases and all. It's kind of like there's something in this movie for everybody. And I'm a fan of this film. It's been a long time since I've seen this film. I can't believe it's been 11 years since it was released. I did see it in theaters. I have been a big Edgar Wright fan for many, many years. And I was really looking forward to this because of the fact that it just looked so wacky and zany, and it looked like it was giving me a lot of what I was looking for. Are you a big Edgar Wright fan? How do you feel about him?
I love Edgar Wright movies. The ones that I know that I have seen, he's not a guy that frequently comes to mind for me in terms of listing off my favorites. But anytime you tell me, oh, hey, this was an Edgar Wright movie and I've seen it, I go, oh yeah, no, I love that. And I can tell you, one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years was actually an Edgar Wright movie, Baby Driver.
Baby Driver is great.
Which only grew in esteem with me the more and more I thought about it. I remember seeing it in the movie theater for the first time with fellow Nerd Party co-host Matt Rushing. We saw it together in San Francisco the weekend that we got to go to Skywalker Ranch with our friend Nick out there.
That's a great weekend.
That was
you could not have planned that better.
It really
Unless
puts
George
some,
Lucas, while you were watching Baby Driver, he said, "Hey,
yes,
I'm to thank for a lot of this," and you're like, "Which parts?" And he's like, "All of it. You're welcome."
You might notice that Ansel Elgort is wearing a jacket that looks like Han Solo's vest from the first Star Wars, and that was a decision that we made.
You know what's cool though? I saw Baby Driver. It was released 2017. That was the year Sarah and I moved to Atlanta, and it was filmed in Atlanta. And Edgar Wright, I think, was originally going to disguise. His plan was, all right, well, we may consider Atlanta as a location and we'll disguise it and pretend it's LA. But he loved Atlanta so much, and he just loved the way everything looked. He was like, no, let's just embrace that it's Atlanta and we'll just film it here. It's taking place here. So he rewrote the script for that. But it was so cool to have just moved there. And I was working at Georgia State University at the time. There's a whole chase sequence that takes place on foot around the campus. And it was like, I walk by there every day. That was a really cool little treat. I was feeling homesick, and that kind of made me feel like, oh, cool. Okay, good. We're in a good place.
And I know that he also did the Cornetto trilogy, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, which I think is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I love that.
And I actually liked End of the World as well.
World's End.
World's End. That's what it was.
Yeah.
At the World's End, I actually thought was really good. But like anything else in a trilogy, I always tend to be alone with the third one, where I'm like, I really like this. Everyone's like, it's not as good as the first two. I'm like, I liked it. I'm always like Butters in South Park.
I remember seeing Shaun of the Dead. I went over to my friend's house because his older brother, was in film school. That was I guess this is around our senior year of high school, or right when I had graduated from high school. And his older brother was home from film school and said, you have to see this movie. I came over to be like, hey, let's go out and do something fun. And he was like, no, my older brother, he's making me watch it. So I came in like 10, 15 minutes late and sat down and watched Shaun of the Dead, and was just I'd heard of it, and I was just so blown away by it. I adored it. And then Hot Fuzz was out, I think, like the following year. So I saw it in 2005 or 6. It was out in 2007, and I saw that in theaters, and again was blown away. And then I watched the TV show Spaced, and I loved that. And so I was perfectly poised for Scott Pilgrim, and I really, I don't want to say too much about my reaction, because I think my reaction to the film and my opinion on the film is maybe a little controversial, is maybe a little different from the standard norm. So we'll get into that in the second half of the show once we've watched the film. But I remember thinking, this is great. Why is no one seeing this? Because the movie, I think, had like an $80 million budget. Like, it was a huge film with a star-studded cast. I mean, so many amazing people who were already stars, people who were about to be, I mean, Brie Larson is in this movie. Chris Evans was just about to be Captain America. Like, you know, it was just crazy that this amazing star-studded cast. And to me, Edgar Wright was like, you know, as you said, he's not someone I think about now, but for sure, I think he's one of my favorite filmmakers. And back then, it was definitely like, yeah, top 10 filmmakers, Edgar Wright is right in there. I just remember thinking, like, how is no one else talking about this? And then the movie came out and kind of bombed at the box office, and I was just so depressed. I think one of those awful, like, parody movies like Date Movie or Epic Movie. You remember that slew of like horrible.
Oh, do
like,
I ever?
Oh my God. I remember that came out and that beat it at the box office. And I remember just being like, I don't want to live in this world. I don't want to live in a world where like Scott Pilgrim is just kind of like, oh, whatever. But in the years since, it's obviously amassed a huge cult following and people love it and people think it's a classic and all that stuff. So that's been kind of fun to see. But I do remember being kind of baffled and thinking, like, this movie feels so of this generation that I was amazed nobody embraced it in the way that I felt like it should have been embraced.
From my perspective, that this came out in what you're saying, this came out in 2009, right? 2010. Okay, 2009, 2010. That's you know, 2 kids, mortgage, blah blah blah, all that stuff. So I know that's why I wasn't there. But every person I've ever run across, if they mention Scott Pilgrim or it comes up in a conversation, it's all like, and I go back to this reference all the time throughout my life when I talk about stuff where it gets, after a point, sort of ponderous to hear people talking about it, and it almost sets your feet in the, you know, in the clay where you're like, I'm not gonna see it now. Yeah, but it was like when I was in college and everybody was talking about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or Lord of the Rings. I was like, I don't want to read those things because you won't shut up about it. I actually had in college friends who talked about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy so much that I said, if any one of you idiots, if the whole group of you can go 2 weeks without making a reference or telling me to read the book, I'll read it. And they never did. I had to wait till after college. They could not go 2 weeks, 14 days. It's a short time. We didn't live together either.
Scott Pilgrim does feel like that movie that has been embraced very passionately by certain people. And for reasons, like, it'll be interesting. I haven't seen it in a while. I will say it's not my favorite Edgar Wright movie. It's probably not one of my favorite movies, but it's definitely, in terms of like the synthesis and the energy and what Edgar Wright is able to pull off in live action, that I feel like for instance, I haven't seen it all the way through, but I saw parts of Speed Racer, which was just flabbergasting and gave me a headache. And I felt like the Wachowskis were trying so hard to like, yes, live action anime, and we did The Matrix, so we know all about that. And it was just a nightmare. And Edgar Wright comes along, having done Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, highly stylized films that are great, like send-ups, but also homages to their genres and the filmmakers who made those films. But Scott Pilgrim comes along, and it's just like this incredible cultural, like almost live action anime, but also, even though it's not based on a video game, it might be the best video game movie ever too. Like, he kind of came out and made the best version of a lot of these different kinds of movies that a lot of expert filmmakers, quote unquote, were trying and failing to do. And I think it's just because he like went for broke. He was young, he had so much enthusiasm and love for the material, and he wasn't like self-conscious about it. Like, he was just like, it doesn't have to make sense, let's go for it. Like, let's just literally translate the ridiculousness of the comic book on which this movie is based and take all these fun ideas and make it live action.
See, I'm curious now, just because of the fact I think that's a great tease. I'm curious about the fact that you say that it's not your favorite, because this is a really interesting place to approach a movie, is with somebody who's a fan and somebody who can appreciate it, but they're not, that it's not going to be one of those hill I'm going to die on sort of things.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm actually really looking forward to that. And I know all of the stars that are involved in it. I know it's based on this source material and everything, but do you think the reason it couldn't find an audience is because the way that it's composed? Like, did it come across as the wrong type of, like, too young for the older crowd, too old for the younger crowd? Like,
I think so. I think based on what I've read and how I understand it, it was just, I thought it, I mean, to me, I watched the trailers and I'm like, again, this is my perfect movie. But I think people thought, oh, this is like a nerdy anime. And again, Speed Racer is probably, I don't remember exactly when that movie came out, but I don't think this is that far detached from Speed Racer. I feel like that was 2007-ish. I could be wrong. The movie, the live action movie. So people might have been thinking about that. They might have been thinking, like, I don't know who these people are. Like, Michael Cera was big for me. I was a big Arrested Development fan, but that was only just starting to catch on with the mainstream. Like, it was just kind of like that amazing show that nobody had heard of and had just been canceled. So Michael Cera, I was like, I love him. And people didn't know who Edgar Wright was because Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz were the only movies of his that were out. And that those weren't mainstream successes. Those weren't huge hits, but they were like, people who loved movies and loved a particular kind of movie really, really embraced those and were really passionate about those. So I think it was a combination of that. And then the marketing was just very, not bad, but I think it was like, how do we explain what this movie is to an audience? And I guess if somebody goes in blind, not knowing what to expect and just is not on the movie's wavelength, I can see them being like, oh, that was stupid, or like it completely going over their head. But that's got to be it. I think it was just like it was bad timing. People didn't know how to advertise it, and the audiences, general audiences, didn't know what they were watching or what they were looking at, or if it was even meant for them. And to be fair, I think this film is very much targeted towards a niche, like nerdy, like people who like grew up playing old school video games and brawlers and like and loved comic books and loved video games and things like that. Like, it's just like, it has that vibe. It's a very millennial movie. So it's definitely catered towards that. It's not that it can't be appreciated by other demographics or other generations or anything like that, but it was definitely targeted so specifically and was unashamed. It was like completely embracing of like, yes, we are that movie, and you're either going to go with it or you're not. And I could see how that could be confusing, but it doesn't. It also doesn't surprise me that now, in the years since its release, people are saying like, oh yeah, one of the greatest movies ever. It's kind of like, oh yeah, it took you long enough to kind of come around to appreciating that movie, even if I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment.
But see, that what's interesting is there are so many gems throughout time that are the first Terminator. It did okay-ish, I guess, at the box office or whatever. Like, people didn't really pay too much attention to it till it got to video. Yeah. And then it gathers enough of a cult audience that, the movie studio is like, sure, spend $100 million making a sequel, Yeah. So And hasn't there been talk about a sequel to Scott Pilgrim versus the World? I know that
there
that's
has been for so long. I think this movie. I haven't read all the comic. I've read a couple volumes of it, and it's really fun. I think this tells the whole story of the comic book. There's 6 volumes of it, so obviously there's probably more that I'm not aware of that I haven't read. But I'm sure I'm sure it's been mentioned or thought about or tossed about. I don't know what the official stance of it is. Maybe I'll find out by the time we come back to talk about the movie. But it's one of those things where if the cast wanted to come back, I feel like they all seem like they're having a blast. I know Edgar Wright had a great time making it, and everyone had a lot of fun doing it.
If it cost $80 million before Chris Evans was known as Captain America, it's not going to be that cheap next time.
Yeah, I don't know if we can make this movie again. But do you want to try to take a stab and guess what the movie's plot is?
Sure. I've seen the trailer, so I know what the movie is about. Scott Pilgrim, and there's a girl he likes, and he has to go through this trial of facing, I think it's 7 of her ex-boyfriends or former relationships, because I think there's a twist thrown in there. Yeah. And like there's the cool guy, and then I know Jason Schwartzman plays like a big baddie or something like that. So
he does. And you've been on House Lights, you've been going through you just started going through Wes Anderson.
Yes.
So
yeah.
It'll be fun to switch from Wes Anderson mode to Scott Pilgrim, Jason Schwartzman, just hamming it up mode.
Battle of the Schwartzmans.
Yes, exactly. Well, there you go. So you have the base. That is the general premise, and there's fun stuff in here. So I'm really, really excited to see what you think, to see if it holds up to its reputation. And for me, I haven't seen it in years, so I'm actually really excited to watch it again and to see if it holds up or if I like it more.
Awesome.
Let's go watch Scott Pilgrim, and we will be back to discuss it.
Let's do it.
Now available to own on video cassette.
And we're back. John Mills, tell me, what did you think of Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
It's very adequate.
This is going to be fun.
I have a feeling I've just earned the anger, the enmity, if you will, of every hipster nerd that exists. Is about
John,
to come
I
my
would
blood.
love nothing more than to pile on with them, and I would love nothing more than to see you induce the wrath and to take that wrath just full on. However, the wrath may have to be divided between the two of us.
Even better.
Scott Pilgrim, I admire it so much for just Edgar Wright's sheer creativity, for the energy everyone brings to it, for the beauty of the visuals. Like it is just, it's inventive, it's fun, it commits to the bit it's doing completely, and it does it really well. And it's also exhausting. It's an exhausting film.
That is an accurate statement. It's really weird because there are so many instances, and I wouldn't think to pick something like this, but the overall impression I was left with, and this is where I will really, if anybody is older listening to the geriatric crowd like me, the overall impression is that it's enjoyable, it's entertaining. Like you said, the visual flair is there, but I think that this is an example of a comic book that does not translate particularly well into the film medium. So in a sense, there's something that reminds me of Tank Girl from the 1990s. Did you ever see Tank Girl?
Never seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yes. Tank Girl was starring Lori Petty from
Free Willy.
Yeah, she was in Free Willy. See, the thing is, I was going to go with Point Break.
That too.
You know, that shows our age difference right there, right? What's the first movie you think of with Lori Petty? But you know, where it's like the comic is really inventive and interesting, and the movie was not as much. Now, I'm not saying that this is as bad as Tank Girl. Very few things are.
Are you saying Scott Pilgrim is bad?
No,
Okay.
no.
Let's clear that up too, because there was a point where it was like, it's not as bad. It's like, is that
No.
mean it's bad?
No, like I said, it's adequate. It's adequate. I've since watching it, I'm trying to figure out why I didn't respond to it, because
Let's try to work through this
Yeah.
together, because the first thing I started about halfway through it, my wife Sarah was with me, and I turned to her and I said, I remember, we talked a little bit about it in the before part of this episode, where I didn't want to spoil this for you, but when I saw it in theaters, I told you I was so excited. I still am to this day. I'm a huge Edgar Wright fan. I was probably even more so back then, coming off of Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, just like, yes, these are the best movies. And I walked out of Scott Pilgrim with a positive reaction, but relatively lukewarm, similar to what I had today, which was, that was a lot of fun, but I didn't feel remotely connected to any of it. Like, it didn't mean anything. It didn't engage me beyond the surface level. And I know some people think, well, it's a comedy. It's just supposed to throw everything at you and you're supposed to perceive it that way. And I say, okay, fine. But then I started comparing it to Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz.
Mm-hmm.
And Hot Fuzz is more stylized, I think, than Shaun of the Dead in terms of what it does with the characters. And when it goes full on action movie, it becomes 100% parody, where Nicholas Angel is basically that action hero. But at the core of those two movies, there are characters with character arcs, with relationships. And even though you recognize the influences and the parody elements and the films that they're paying tribute to, there is an original story there with characters you can become engaged and involved with. As you said, and again, I haven't read the full comic book series. I've read the first 2 volumes, and it's been years, so I'm not by any means the expert on Scott Pilgrim. But like you said, I think Scott Pilgrim, the story and what we see here, is relatively superficial. It's relatively shallow. We're presented with a hero who's pretty unlikable. And Michael Cera is one of the most likable people on the planet, I believe. I, again, don't know him personally, but based on what I've seen of him, based on his other work, I love him. I think he's pretty miscast as Scott Pilgrim, because Scott Pilgrim is kind of a sleazy dude. And every time Michael Cera is on screen, I don't buy him as that dude, and I don't think he was able to commit to that role. And I think that's partly to blame for it, but I also think Scott Pilgrim as a character is hard to jump on board with, and it's hard to buy into anyone being remotely attracted to him, whether it's Ramona or whether it's Knives. I didn't buy Michael Cera in the role of a sleazy dude, and I also didn't buy that we're supposed to be invested in this guy as a meaningful character.
I completely agree. You've put your finger on it right there. What performance was required here wasn't Michael Cera's unassuming Woody Allen, the next generation. It was a matter of, this person should be charismatic and likable because he doesn't intend to be the D-bag that he is, right? That's the thing. That's the thing that a lot of people don't realize about themselves or their friends or other people that they look back and they cast judgment on years later, is somebody can be a D-bag and not mean to be. They lack the self-awareness. And there is an arc, if you really like parse it out, he's supposed to gain that self-awareness at the end, where he sort of realizes, wait a minute, the problem is me. Yeah. I'm the one that's been at fault this whole time. Cera doesn't pull that off. Now, I always make reference to Roger Ebert. Roger Ebert said, I never blame the actor for a performance that wasn't right. I blame the director, because the director is supposed to tell the actor what they want and what they need. But there is something about Cera's portrayal that is obstinately disconnected from the type of person that Scott Pilgrim needs to be.
It's like he fears to commit.
Yes.
And again, this is with all due respect to Michael Cera, who I do really, really love and respect. it's like his reluctance to commit to the sleaziness. Like it's there, and he gets the one-liners off. Like there's some that are really good, and he does hit the punchlines really well. He's very good at that and the awkward humor, but it's almost like he couldn't wrap his head around the character, so he kind of is stuck doing his bit because he couldn't find the character through his portrayal. So he's kind of like, I'll be Michael Cera, and also I'll read these lines. But yeah, like you're saying, Scott Pilgrim has to be, and I know Scott Pilgrim. We've known, I was Scott Pilgrim. Like I wasn't beating anybody up, but I know that being a guy in your early 20s and being like remote, like having any level of luck with your romances, you can take them for granted, and you can be a jerk, and you can be just completely so self-absorbed that you don't realize how much of a jerk you're being. So it's like, I know this guy, and I'm willing to admit I was this guy. So I like when I watch this, I'm like, this is not that. You're missing the point. We're not really connecting to the core of who this is. Also, to be fair to him, this is not a movie that's concerned with the depth of that persona in general. It's very, to me, Edgar Wright got the script, looked at it, and said, I can have a lot of fun with this. And he does, for sure. The movie has a lot of fun stuff. The cast seems like they're having a ball. The filmmaker, like the crew, what they've done here is just so zany and exciting and flashy. But there's a part of me that feels like there's so many moments where that flashiness is trying to hide from the fact that it's like, if we can keep the energy levels up, people will hopefully be distracted from the fact that nothing of substance is really going on here.
Well, the problem too, I think, is that the part of the disconnect for me, especially with Scott Pilgrim himself, is Mary Elizabeth Winstead seems to have shown up for the movie I thought this was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Like she's in a different version of this movie that has that emotional arc and hook that I'm looking for. And so when she's on screen, when she's doing her thing, I'm actually plugging into it more. Like she's almost by force of will dragging everybody else along with her, but it's just not enough. And then there is a portrayal. Jason Schwartzman's character at the end, he is a caricature. But I think the reason that final arc, this gets back to what we've been saying back and forth for a couple of minutes now. He's so unreal. Now, I know this is a movie where he's fighting,
that's the hard thing with this. This is every argument we make here, somebody is listening and saying, that's the point. It's supposed to not be reality, but it's like, you see what the problem with that is.
But that's the thing, is you have to root your unreality in something. Like, why do the
emotional truth? You find emotional truth.
Why do the Avengers movies work when they work? It's because they find that emotional truth. And so even though I'm watching a guy in a power suit and somebody with a magic shield throwing stuff around, I have some sort of emotional investment in what's going on.
Yeah.
And then you have this, which is this is like the lesser Marvel movies where it's like, okay, there's a lot of flash here, but I'm not really feeling anything. And so it's style over substance. And I think not just with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and I apologize for forgetting the actress's name, but the actress who plays the drummer in the band.
Yes. Yeah, it's Allison Pill.
I thought she was delightful too.
Yes.
I really did.
I think, I'll be honest, everyone, and this is again I think Mary Elizabeth, I completely agree. I think she's really good. And I don't buy at all that her as Ramona would be remotely attracted or interested in Scott Pilgrim, who is such a dweeb and so in over his head. That connection is never clear. I remember thinking wait, is there no reason for her to fall for him? She just immediately is she's like, I'm not interested in you. And then he does nothing to endear himself to her. And then all of a sudden she's like, let's make out. I'm going to go change and get naked in my room. Let's make out in my bed. The love story is not, it doesn't work for me. Everything around it, all the supporting characters from Ellen Wong to Kieran Culkin are amazing. I think the evil exes are having a ball, and they're
Yeah.
probably my favorite part of the movie. Everything about this movie, I like, including in the band and the Steven Stills and the young Neil, all that stuff is great. I care about everyone else more than the characters that are supposed to be anchoring this movie in the emotional reality or whatever.
Two things on that. One, I'm glad you mentioned the music because I mean, this is an Edgar Wright movie, so the use of music is fantastic.
It's superb, yeah.
Just absolutely, that's the 5-star part.
I think the creativity, which we can talk about, of the fights with the X's, but I think the excitement that is elicited when you hear Scott playing the bass when they're gonna do the bass off with Brandon Routh, but you just hear the do 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 do, and you go into that dark room, and that starts to he breaks it. Like, I think that's like one of the best moments in the movie. It's so good. It's purely cinematic. It's purely the music and everything. This is a long way of saying, like, yeah, I completely agree. I think Edgar Wright is just, he gets it. He knows how to get that excitement and your blood pumping.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like that, to go back to one of my favorite filmmakers, George Lucas, like, sound is half the experience, right? So that music really plays a heavy role in it. And with the Evil X's, one of the biggest things for me is, I think one of the great crimes of an actor's history is that Chris Evans is a terrifically gifted comic actor.
Yeah.
And because he became Captain America, now he has to be serious actor to be in important works like Snowpiercer and things like that. And it's like, I want to see him go back, and I am saying this as a compliment, okay? Compliment. Him in this movie reminds me of when Shatner wised up and realized that he had a great comic gift. And so when Shatner started playing like Denny Crane, or he played Bill Shatner playing Jim Kirk playing Bill Shatner in Star Trek 4, or when he was in National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1, when Shatner's having fun, it's a lot of fun, and you can't help but laugh and have a good time. And Evans, I want to see this guy in comedies again, like this, or not another teen movie. I want him back as a comic actor because he is a terrific comic actor. And this movie was painful in a way because it reminded me of the Chris Evans I've been robbed of. And I want him back. I want him back. I demand it.
They did a marketing campaign of all of his character, Lucas Lee, all the movies he's in, and they all have the posters are spectacular. But the one they show is the romantic film, and the tagline is "Kiss me, I'm dying." It's so good. But I wish maybe I'll send those to you. But anyone listening, I mean, if you haven't seen those, look them up. It's just, again, the creativity and the brilliance of the production design, the jokes, like the jokes work. I laugh consistently watching this movie, and I'm moderately entertained. I think I just get so, by the end of it, I feel like I've called this movie's shtick, and I get kind of tired of it. I'm like,
yes,
the Evil X's, it's great, but at a certain point, oh, Ramona has a giant hammer now, and it's like, I know they are not connected to reality in any way, but there was a point where I was thinking to myself, and if I'm thinking while watching a movie, like I start thinking, why didn't then the movie's not doing a very good job of keeping my attention. But when I started to think, like, are they murdering each other? Like when they exploded the coins,
right.
Like, I know I'm not supposed to be thinking about that stuff. I know it's like a joke and it's like, it's a video, but there was a part of me that's like, the movie doesn't have stakes when people are exploding into coins and you get one-ups and you can come back to life. I was like,
right.
At what point am I supposed to feel like concerned or feel like any measure of suspense when these characters are like knocking each other into outer space and they're basically Looney Tunes? Like, I know I'm not supposed to be thinking about that, but I can't help it because the movie, it has its foot in reality, kind of, and then it's like, no, but it's funny and it's zany and we don't have to worry about serious stuff. And I'm like, I can't keep up.
But see, for me, there are two things on that. One is, the breaking point for me really is Brandon Routh. That's sort of like the peak.
I really love Brandon Routh.
No. I'm saying because I love his whole thing in this movie.
The vegan police.
Yeah, and the vegan police showing up at the end. Like, I was having a great
What's
time
his
with
line?
that.
Oh, chicken isn't vegan? It's so good.
Yeah. I honestly think that's a moment where, for me, that's where the movie just runs out of gas. Because it can't. There are comedies where once it hits a certain point, it's just all downhill from there. And it robs Jason Schwartzman of any opportunity to wow me, because I've already lost all of my energy by that. I'm just tired. Yeah. I'm just, okay, I know he's going to win. Okay, let's just okay, he comes back. Great. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that, what you were saying gets back again to Sarah just being miscast, right? Like there's just such a, he should have been directed to be a character where his difficulty fighting these people is a shock to him. He should be so self-confident, like it's a false self-confidence, but he should be so full of bravado that he refuses to acknowledge the reason that he's having difficulty fighting these people is because he's not as cool as he thinks he is.
Yeah.
Right. So to give that thing at the end some real weight.
I think so, and I think part of the problem is inherently the movie is so concerned with going for the cool moment and the punchline, literally like some like actual punchlines, whatever.
Right.
Like I would have loved to have seen Scott be like legitimately in over his head, but literally the first Evil X, and I don't know, whatever the actor's name is who plays Matthew Patel is so good. I think Satya Baba. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but he plays Matthew Patel, and Mr. Pilgrim. He does it so well, and it's so good, and it's so spot on. But literally, the guy comes into the room, and Scott immediately punches the dude in the face, and it's like there's no sense of like, oh wait, Scott. I know they have like a little scene with him and Knives playing Dance Dance Revolution, which I guess is supposed to mean that Scott Pilgrim is a great fighter, but there's this feeling of like how much more effective would the movie have been if Scott wasn't a fighter. He's in over his head, but he loves Ramona so much that he has to train himself to be, and that's not this movie. I know that's not this movie, but that's a satisfying character arc, and there aren't any satisfying character arcs in this film. So it's like, to a certain extent, it's like the movie is like, it's going to be fun, it's going to be zany, but like Scott immediately is like good at fighting and pretty good at everything. He's a good bass player, he's a good fighter, right. He's really bad at relationships and at being thoughtful and caring, and he's extremely selfish, but it's almost like the movie's afraid to like really give him any faults in that regard, I guess.
Well, it would have been nice, to that point, if they could have solved that, I think, just by having Knives be conscious during the first fight, so that Patel comes in and, stuns him, surprises him, and she can say something like, "Remember Dance Dance Revolution?" So that wakes him up and that puts him in the mindset of what he has to do.
I feel like logic. The problem is logic doesn't apply to this movie. Like it's like it doesn't.
Right.
And the movie is like the movie. Basically, every argument you make against the movie, I just sense like Edgar Wright or somebody saying like, "Oh, it's a magical. It doesn't have to." But I feel like what you suggested, it's like that's not. It's almost like it's not the point. But then that also is the argument we're making, is the fact that it's not the point. Is right. Why the movie just doesn't have any ups and downs. It's just a consistent barrage of like, it's a sensory overload with no sense of stakes.
Now, with the exception of the music, we've sort of been curb stomping, and we did both say it's adequate. It's good,
I didn't realize I needed to get all that out of my, like, I feel bad.
Yeah.
It's the 10th or the 11th anniversary. There's a screening for the movie coming up, so everyone's pumped to hear the Scott Pilgrim Missing Frames episode, and they've probably tuned out. So how can we win back the people who have tuned out? How do we get it?
Can we get a one up?
Can we get can we come back to life and win these people back over? Do we have to learn the power of self-respect?
Oh gosh, no. The boat has sailed on that one for me. That's way gone. I have self-loathing at best. No, the thing is, the things that we talked about what this does right, visually, music-wise. One thing I wanted to get to was with the way some of the cultural conversation has shifted. One thing I appreciated at the very least about this was showing that the nerd has a go-to, a a comfort zone where he uses the same line about the origin of Pac-Man. He keeps that in his back pocket to show off his knowledge. And what I wanted to ask you is, do you think that in the current climate, something like that could easily be misinterpreted, and that this movie could be used as a helpful way to say, well, no, people sometimes just get a certain level of expertise or knowledge about one thing, and so that's all they have, and that's why they trot it out as an expertise that they have. Like, the only shorthand I can think of is, like, he's not mansplaining. He's unable to know anything else. Like, he's learned what he's learned, and so he doesn't go outside of that. So that's why that's all that he has.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Well, that's the problem too. I think, well, to that point, that's the problem with the movie, is that he doesn't have anything more than that. And he doesn't connect with Ramona on a real level. Like, it's like, he comes to her with the Pac-Man thing. She's like, "You're a creep, get away from me." And he's like, "Okay." Then he orders a package on Amazon. She shows up at his house, agrees to go on a date with him because she's like, "Will you leave me alone if I go on a date with you?" And he's like, "Yes." He's done nothing remotely charming or endearing up to this point. And it's like funny and goofy, but it's also like, oh, she doesn't like him. And then they go on a date where they walk around and they make jokes, and it's funny, but it's also like superficial and shallow, and you don't really feel like they're getting to know each other. And then she invites him back to, he hasn't done anything to earn it, and then they're making out. Like, it's just like, so it speaks to the whole point of, like, I think the movie is trying to say, like, oh, he's so self-absorbed and he's so in his own world that he doesn't realize other people aren't interested in these things. But then he's constantly rewarded for that behavior.
And the thing is, script-wise, there's a very easy way to solve that, where she says, "We'll, sign it," and he signs it, and he opens the package, and it's for her. Right?
Yeah.
Like, just that little twist, suddenly he's done something
or
for
like
her.
He talks about Pac-Man and he says, "Oh, the Pac-Man thing, da 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 da," and she says, "Actually, it was this year." And he's like, "Oh my God, you're right." And that could have been a simple thing, but the movie's not concerned with that. It's more concerned with, like, it's funny and it's fast and it's zany and stuff like that. So it's like, there are little moments you could add in here, but I don't know. The movie doesn't want to be that movie. I don't know if I should fault it for that, but for me, that's why I don't engage with that.
Next question. Have you read, I'm presuming you've seen, have you read Ready Player One?
Yeah, I've read it and I've seen it.
Do you think that this movie suffers from the same thing that does?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I think now Ready Player One is beholden to its references in a way that I don't know Scott Pilgrim is. Like, Scott Pilgrim feels like it has more of an identity. Whereas Ready Player One is like, you take out the references and it's done. Whereas Scott Pilgrim, it's like, okay, like, he fights and stuff, and there's references to, like, the coins when you beat a boss, you get coins. Like, that's kind of funny. But it's not so reliant on, like, name dropping specific, like, oh, there's the Iron Giant, and there's
gotcha.
The DeLorean from Back to the, like, it's, so. But yes, I think a lot of why Scott Pilgrim has endeared itself so much to the film community is because it's so it's not ashamed of its nerdiness, and it fully embraces it in a way that it's like, this really is, like I told you, it's like an homage to anime, to comic books, to video games. It is kind of the best video game movie ever in a way. Like, it is, like, in some way it is. So it's like, it's doing a whole lot of things, and it's like a hodgepodge plus Edgar Wright's kind of brilliant visual style.
You're saying that this is a better video game than the 1990s Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter?
Well,
I mean, are you sure you want to commit to that?
Maybe I should take this. Yeah, especially with the new Mortal Kombat movie right around the corner. I don't want to earn their ire.
Seriously.
But
I'm in hell. I can't believe we've reached the point of the reboot where Mortal Kombat is coming back. Like, what world am I living in? Okay, like
the best one, clearly.
no, when the meek shall inherit the earth was supposed to be like a promise about hopeful things for the future, and instead it's like one of those evil fortunes you get in in the Twilight Zone, where it's like, oh my god, I didn't want this world. And it's like, well, that's the one you got.
Let's try this. Let's talk about things we liked about Scott Pilgrim now. We've spent about 30 minutes talking about the things that really don't work. What do we like? For me, I think the movie, I give it full credit for being completely manic. I think the actors are great. I don't, again, I've said Michael Cera, I think, is miscast as Scott Pilgrim, but I do think he's good. I think he's funny when he needs to be. I think the movie is hysterical when it needs to be. I love the visual gags, and I love the like really quick whip pans to somebody. I like one of my favorite moments is the when Scott brings Ramona to his first show, and there's like a quick visual showdown where like Knives looks at Ramona, and then Scott's roommate looks at his sister's boyfriend, and all these like very quick, funny. Edgar Wright has already been great at that, but there's something that's very anime about it, and he really nails that style in a live action format that I really respect. I love Knives. I think Knives is a more interesting character than Scott in a lot of ways. I wish we got to spend more time with her. I feel like she disappears from the movie, and then she kind of shows up at the end, and then she's like, "Go get her, pal." And it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, she's like, "I'm too cool for you." And I'm like, well, that's true, but I don't what was, how, why, what? So that, aside from that, I love her. I think I really love the cast. I think the fights are really cool and fun. Like the cast members trained, and it's stunt people at times, but like for sure Michael Cera is pulling off a lot of these hits, and especially the Lucas Lee with the skateboards and the clear homage to the Warriors soundtrack. Like that music is so good. I love that stuff, and I think Brandon Routh's great. I love the bass fight. So like there's inventiveness here, there's fun here, there's really, really cool stuff here. And I wish I was emotionally engaged in any of it, but I will be willing to concede to anybody who's like, it's just a fun, zany comic book video game extravaganza. I'm like, that it certainly is, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we hit on positive stuff here and there, like Chris Evans and stuff like that. And you're right. I actually think that Aubrey Plaza is a lot of fun.
She's great.
She got a lot of laughs from me. I think that like the problem is, you can listen to our complaints and be like, oh, these guys, like, I can't hate this movie. It's impossible to hate this movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that gets to your point where it's like another movie, without Edgar Wright's inventiveness, without the energy of members of the cast, without the commitment, and without some of the visual, gags that are inserted by effects crews and stuff like that, this movie simply doesn't work. And so while it's not terrific, and I don't think it's great, I don't hate it. I'll never hate it. I could even see myself watching this again because, like on one of those lazy afternoons where it's like, I just don't want to think. Yeah, okay, Scott Pilgrim, sure.
Yeah.
Right? But it's never going to be one of those things where I think it's an all-time classic.
This is like, a teenage boy just getting into filmmaking, like a 16-year-old kid who's like, I want to be a movie director. Let me dive into the works of Edgar Wright. This could be their favorite movie. This could be the movie that makes kids want to make movies. Like, I can see that. And then you get older and you kind of grow out of it and you're like, oh, I appreciate it, but I don't connect with it the same way. Like, even at 20 or so years old when this came out, I guess I was 22 or 23. I was kind of like, I'm a little over this. Like, I need a little bit more than just this, but I still enjoyed it. But now I'm definitely a little less so. But I do see like the audience this appeals to, they latch onto it and they love it. And there's a cult following. There are people who to this day are like, oh, it's such a great movie. I realized something I wanted to bring up with you and get your thoughts on. This is kind of two questions rolled into one, but we were on House Lights together with Tristan Riddell It's
Mhm.
another nerd party show. Everyone should check it out. But we did The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. And that's a movie we both really enjoy. I think
Yes.
I would probably say I love it. And I think you and Tristan would certainly say that as well. And I realized there are parallels between that movie and this movie. First of all, we have a up and coming indie filmmaker getting hold of a major budget. Like Scott Pilgrim's budget, I think was $80 million, which is insane considering what
Wow.
Edgar Wright had done before. Wes Anderson's budget, I think, was more around 40 million, but this was for both of them kind of supposed to be their big mainstream movie. And both movies, Scott Pilgrim got a decent critical response, but it wasn't as unanimously enthusiastic as it was for Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz. But Life Aquatic was pretty mixed from critics. But both movies bombed at the box office. And I started thinking, I'm like, well, Life Aquatic, it's a movie where Wes Anderson is a little bit more unhinged, a little bit less attached to reality, maybe, than Royal Tenenbaums or Rushmore or Bottle Rocket. And you could say the same for Scott Pilgrim. There are parallels here with these two movies. And I wanted to ask you two questions. One, why do you think Life Aquatic works when this one doesn't? And two, do you now understand why maybe, like The Life Aquatic, Scott Pilgrim did not find its audience at the time?
Yeah. See, the thing is, with Life Aquatic, I wasn't nuts about it at first, and then I was.
So
So
that could happen here. That may be a possibility.
I don't think it will, though, specifically because I think that's the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou gets better with age, and especially as you get older. Right? Like the character is built to speak to you getting older, because that's the whole thing that he's struggling with. Whereas this is very much rooted in youth, and as you get distance from that youth, it's entirely possible that this didn't resonate with me because I'm too old for it. Right?
Right.
But at the same time, a truly great film transcends age differences, and it doesn't matter what age you see it at, sort of thing.
Right.
Why do I think they struggle to find, audiences? I think Life Aquatic was just too quirky, too zany for people. I think with this one, you and I, even though we didn't go nuts for it, we understand the references that it's going for. Even if I don't understand a specific game reference or a specific piece of anime that it's going for, I can say, oh, that's anime. Oh, okay, that reminds me of video games I played growing up.
Right.
Okay, got it. If I show this film to my wife, and anybody who listens to me across, whatever shows I'm on, I'm in the habit of throwing her under the bus, but it's not that. I use her as my barometer of what, quote unquote, the normies would plug into. Because she didn't grow up playing video games. She wasn't a nerd. She wasn't a geek. She wasn't anything like that. She's complete different pathway than me, getting to adulthood. If I showed this to her, I actually think she'd have about the same reaction, which is, that was cute. But I think that this thing winds up finding its cult audience because it speaks a specific language.
Yeah.
Sort of the way when somebody gave me, or recommended, I should say, Ready Player One, the book, they said, oh, you make references all the time to these things. You're going to love this. And I read it, and I almost didn't have the heart to say to them, I didn't love this.
Yeah.
Because they thought, because I understood all of the references, that I would, so yeah, that's why I think it will always remain a very niche audience with this.
Yeah, I think watching it now, I understand, because I remember talking with you about it and being like, I don't know why it felt like, for me as a 22-year-old nerd who was like completely into video games and comics and all this stuff, it was like, how could nobody else think this is awesome? But looking at it now, it's tough, because I am watching it from the perspective of like, is this supposed to be real? Is it a stylized world, it clearly is. Okay, so there aren't any stakes, but am I supposed to take it seriously? It's kind of funny, but then is he murdering people? Is this happening? He's fighting evil, like he can fight suddenly, and I don't know why he can fight. Like, where did he learn to fight? I can see the stuff that I think as a 23-year-old I would have made fun of anybody who questioned it. But like, I can see a general audience member walking into this and being like, I don't understand. Like, this is so insane, but also like, am I supposed to like Scott? Like, am I supposed to be rooting for him? Like, am I supposed to care about this relationship? Because like, there's no substance to it. And I can just see like people also watching the previews and saying, oh, it's like a cartoon. It's like, it's not my thing. And the movie doesn't extend an olive branch to them. It is unabashedly in its own world. It is appealing to its own fan base. And that's great and admirable. And I think the difference for me personally between this and Life Aquatic is I think Life Aquatic has a powerful emotional resonance that this movie does not have at all.
Do you think, and we talked about how, you know, that he could have done something for Ramona to endear himself and that sort of thing. Do you think that this movie would have benefited from taking the time to have Scott break the fourth wall and talk to the audience in order to extend that olive branch you're talking about? To say, this is my life. This is what
like
I care about.
These are the thing.
Yeah. These are the things that you need to understand about me. These are the things that so that you understand this is a fantasy in his head to process real things that are happening. But
I don't even think this is I don't think you can with this movie, because I think this movie has to exist in its own reality, because the whole thing falls apart if it doesn't. Like, the movie is the movie. Like, there is nothing else. There is no explanation. It's in Scott's head. It's like, this is happening. And that's the world that's being presented to us. I think this movie fails because it doesn't know what Scott's arc is. Like, at the end when it's like Scott gains the power of self-respect, I was like, was that something he was missing? Because he seems the only person he really seems to care about is himself. So that was never to me an issue. Like, when that was supposed to be like the big character moment, it was like, well, no, the character moment is him like, and it's arbitrarily thrown at the end. He's like, no, wait, I'm a jerk and you shouldn't date me because I'm a terrible person. It's like almost arbitrarily thrown in, like, oh, Scott learned a lesson, almost as a joke and a gag. So I at the core, I think the movie can't break the fourth wall in terms of Scott saying like, this is all a joke. I think the movie has to embrace it, but at the same time, you have to combine that with emotional truth. And the movie doesn't have the time to do that because it's too busy being exciting and zany and creative.
And that is also, I think that it doesn't solve anything because you still have, you know, certain problems, but this is another example of simply taking an extra second to think. Instead of him saying he gained the power of self-respect, if you said he gained the power of self-awareness, suddenly you say, oh, okay. And then his statements afterward make more sense.
Or it's like, or he's whatever, like empathy gain. I don't know, whatever, like gain the spirit of generosity or like caring, like, because he takes for granted everyone in his life. So the lesson he has to learn is like, oh, these people are my friends and I should care about them and I should stop using people for my own gain. But the movie, weirdly enough, doesn't seem to understand that. It kind of sort of does, but when Edgar Wright threw in the line where he's like, I think I learned something, I think he was kind of being like he's like, oh yeah, a movie exec tells you have to have a character learn something. And I think he's sort of making a gag. But to me, I'm like watching it thinking, did he learn anything? What is the point of any, like, what's the point of any of this?
I still don't even know what the point is of having him broken up with Brie Larson.
Yeah.
Just to work her into the Brandon Routh thing.
And again, Brie Larson, who her character is kind of, you know, she's a jerk, but also it's like, what did she see in Scott? Like, what does every single girl in this movie see in Scott? Why does Scott dated everybody and he's so dweeby and they're so hung up on him and he's so unlikable? Like, the movie kind of fails everybody in that regard, where it's like, this guy's the least interesting person in this movie, and yet we're paying attention to him instead of almost every other colorful, amazing supporting character in the film.
Wow. I can almost sense the rage mob coming for
This
us.
is bad. This is real bad.
This is bad news, man. We're in trouble.
Yeah. What else can we I tried to turn the tide and failed miserably.
Also, I don't like kittens. Puppies annoy me, and I never help grandmothers across the street. So
make sure to tell them that Revenge of the Sith is your favorite Star Wars movie too.
Well, I mean, that isn't it everybody's? Because it actually is.
Oh, no.
That's not a gag.
That's not a gag. That's
episode.
Real.
Episode 3 of Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorite films of all time, and everybody who
so
doesn't
now
like
everyone
it is wrong.
can everyone's like, oh well, if that's the case, no wonder you didn't like Scott Pilgrim. So okay, you've given them an out.
You
to
just
dismiss this
invalidated
entire...
all of your opinions before this moment.
But no, I think this is an important lesson for Edgar Wright as a filmmaker, this is I think the only thing he's done that's not a work of his. Like this was an original creation, like Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead or The World's End or Baby Driver. It's an adaptation, and I think he came to that adaptation knowing full well what it was and saying, "I'm just going to commit completely to this." But I think with The World's End is almost kind of his story-wise, it's more in line with The Life Aquatic, like the idea of aging and having to grow up and having to. You almost see like if Scott Pilgrim is a film that's obsessed with adolescence and like indulging in that energy and that mindset, The World's End is all about like you have to grow up and leave your childhood behind. And The World's End also has some really fun, inventive action scenes that I don't think he could have done if he hadn't done Scott Pilgrim first. So it's an interesting film in his filmography, and you see how it contributed to things he would do later on. But to me, I think Scott Pilgrim is probably my least favorite of his films. And again, not a film I dislike. I would say like I like it, but I don't know that the reaction to the film is actually due to the quality of the film or if it's to do with just being impressed by all the cool stuff the film pays homage to and what it's referencing.
So now that I've become obsessed with double features, thanks to fellow nerd partier Mike Schindler, I want to have a double feature of this and Ready Player One and see who I can drive off the ledge, who goes mad by the end of it.
What else? Is there anything else left to say about
No, I have to go into witness protection after this, I think.
I do too.
Yeah.
This is bad. I've done a WandaVision episode where I didn't like WandaVision and people were very upset about that. I did a Justice League episode where I didn't like the Snyder cut of the Justice League, though I liked it more than I thought I was going to, but that's not enough for people.
I got issues with what you said in there, but
I know
that's a whole
do.
other
I know
thing.
you were one of many. So now Scott Pilgrim, God, this is like the one.
We got to turn this around. We got to turn this around. We're going to work behind the scenes, and I'm going to pitch some ideas for movies that I know.
Let's find like a cult classic that people can.
I've got one already. We'll talk about it offline.
Okay, we'll do that. But I knew I didn't love this movie. I was kind of surprised to find that I'm like, oh yeah, this sounds awful and pretentious and terrible, but I'm going to say it anyway. I've almost kind of outgrown this movie. And
ouch.
I feel bad saying that because I think the movie is, again, it's so embracing and enthusiastic about what it is. It has no apologies to make, but honestly, it exhausts me. Its manic energy is so inventive, but it just exhausts me and it takes the life out of me when I get through with it. I'm kind of like, oh boy, I just need to watch something with some substance. So I'm about as mixed as can be. So let's just, I guess, final ratings. How many evil X's would you give Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
God forgive me for saying this. 2.5 out of 5.
I'll give it 3. This viewing gets a 3.
I was going to give it 3, but it felt dishonest.
I before it was 3.5. So it's not like I ever was like, oh, this movie's amazing. But like not my favorite Edgar Wright movie, but Edgar Wright, love him. I pray to God nobody involved with this film listen to this episode because I love them all. They're all great. And
listen, I thought Baby Driver was excellent. Okay, that makes
Baby
up
Driver,
for everything.
Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, all of that stuff, great. And Spaced, which if you haven't seen that, maybe Spaced, we can come back and we can do a consolation episode.
Oh no, I have an even better one. One.
What's that?
Oh no, I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, okay. All right.
We'll keep it to
listeners in suspense.
ourselves.
If the listeners are still here, I think they've all left the building by this point. But
probably,
if you're here, we thank you. God, I hope there was some level of entertainment, or maybe you are the person who's been like, "This is what I've been trying to tell people about Scott Pilgrim all this time." So I hope somebody enjoyed listening to this. John, I hope. I don't know. Do you want to tell people where else they can find you on the Nerd Party?
Why not? Bring your pitchforks and torches to Kessel Junkie. That's my name online, KESSELJUNKIE, on your social network of choice. Come and read my actual reviews of things over on Letterboxd.
Have you written a review for this?
No, I actually kept it very close to the chest.
Yeah,
just to hide it for a little while, but it'll be there by the time this drops.
Yeah, enjoy the lack of notoriety for just a little bit longer.
I've generated enough anger for that. Hey, listen, I liked it more than Horror at 37,000 Feet, a 1973 William Shatner TV movie.
See,
so,
there's something positive.
Always a plus. You can find me here on the network co-hosting House Lights with Tristan Riddell, where we go through the works of filmmakers from beginning to finish. And you can also find me here on the network co-hosting Aggressive Negotiations, a Star Wars podcast of a slightly different flavor. We go a little bit deep dive on that one. So that's where you can find me.
And I am here. I'm also at YayShondorman on Twitter. And you can find me on Letterboxd at Shondorman. Oh, boy.
Yep.
The people are it's the 10th, 11th anniversary of Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
We're in trouble.
And this is not what people want to hear. So
no.
I apologize. I again, I hope you got some entertainment value out of it. I mean, John, I always have a great time talking with you. So this was a blast for me. I hope it was a blast for you.
Absolutely.
So we'll pick something that people will hate us a little bit less for next time. I trust you. I don't know. I think I feel like you're gonna just throw me under the bus. With,
you know what? I'm going to be honest. I'm just going to borrow a line from Rick and Morty. Your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will see you at the movies.